Guess what? We're back in Oklahoma. I finally made it back after being working in Atlanta for the last couple months. As you can see, the truck's hanging out back here, and Dad's been going to town on this thing, getting it going. As you can see in front of us, we have a wiring nightmare. So the goal of this video here is we're going to strip all this wire off, figure out exactly what we need, exactly what we don't need to make this motor run in the truck. The whole idea of this build from the start has been to, if we have the item, to try using that first before buying a bunch of aftermarket parts, aftermarket wire harnesses, because mainly two things: it helps us learn how to do this, and also we already have it. So that's the idea. So I will get you guys in here and show you the nightmare of wiring that we have, and Dad's actually already working on the one for the headlights and break it down. I do have a bunch of wiring diagrams that we found online to try and tell us what all this does. And we do have a lot of questions as far as the body control module. Does that need to stay? Can we override it? Should we keep it? So there's lots of questions we have that hopefully will get answered. So let me get you guys in here. We'll show you what we've got and what we got with the truck, and then we'll start doing the delume process of taking all this apart. So let me show you what you got. All right, so as you can see, we've got every hunk of wire we can imagine from inside the cab of the Yukon. This is obviously where it comes out through the firewall into the main power control module, back through the firewall, and into every module known to man. So the first step we're gonna do is we have a list of items in the truck we wanna keep, as far as, like the throttle cable we obviously have to work with. This is a four-wheel drive truck, so we're gonna try and keep the four-wheel drive module as well. So first step is we're gonna strip all this wire loom off and then start decoding what wires we're gonna need and what wires we're not gonna need, and go from there. I'll give you a quick look at the truck here. This is where the truck is currently. It's not very much different from where it was in episode 6. It's kind of been sitting because I was coming over to town to help Dad and also work on it. You can see the wiring in the motor here, we have totally left here alone. So a lot of all the stuff for the motor has not been touched since it came out of the Yukon, which was kind of our plan, other than this where the power control module will go, the computer will go. So this theoretically, hopefully, we should just be able to plug back in and it takes right off in a perfect world. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, here's the current status of the truck. Pretty much, like I said, right where we left off with 6, with the rear, with the gas. He actually has all the fuel system is all finished now and in, which is great. Open this guy up, and it has the new style fuel cap in it. We got some taillights put on it finally. Here's some new taillights we saw. We got some backup lights put in here now as well. Dad put these in, which is pretty dope. So yeah, like I said, the big thing today is going to be the wiring. So let me start working on that. I'll set you guys up. You can watch us. We're going to be delooming for the next couple of hours probably, and then start breaking all this down. So let me get you set up, take a peek at that, watch, hang out. And also too, thanks for everybody who's decided to watch with us on this whole journey. It's definitely been an adventure. So we're still on track to have it done for Power Tour, but it is getting close. So we better get to work. All right, see you guys soon. All right, so here is the aftermath of the wire stripping session. We have quite a couple updates here, actually in the last 24, 48 hours. So let me show you what we did and what we ended up with. Okay, so let me tell you what we ended up with. So the original idea for this was to use a lot of the original wiring to go into the cab of the truck. And After probably 6 hours of sifting through wires, sifting through manuals, looking up diagrams online, we really kind of came to the conclusion that maybe everyone's not wrong, and maybe this was kind of not a great idea. There are so many modules and pieces that go along inside the cab of like a Yukon, to even really start trying to dissect it and how everything works. You definitely have to be, I think, a little bit more involved with the wiring setup of this car than we were. So we did change directions a little bit. We're no longer going to try and use the wiring to go inside the cab for any of that stuff. We did order like a painless wiring kit for the inside of the truck, but we were originally talking about scrapping everything and just going with like a, get a harness ordered that can go into like a Holley Terminator X, like a Max X system, because we were pretty frustrated with where this whole setup was going and the wiring was, which now that it's probably been about 24 hours since we started doing this, we know a lot more information, and we did end up not doing that, and I'll show you what we did. But like I said, we did end up ordering the wiring harness for the inside the cab, which we decided was just the easiest thing to do, make everything new inside there. Also, we can really determine where all the fuses and everything go and not fire up something that we shouldn't. The harness for the motor, though, we did keep, and we did keep the original fuse block that was underneath the hood, and I'll show you what's going on with that. We did, there's a really, really good video, actually. We watched a bunch of good videos. One was from this guy called LS1 Expert, which was a great resource for figuring this system out. And then Half-Ass Customs, obviously, he actually did a truck like this with a Suburban back in the day, and he used the original fuse blocks in one of his trucks. And that's the video that we watched, and we're like, okay, this is the way we want to go. So let me get you over to the truck, and I'll show you the harness that we have now. Which I can hear, this is the original fuse panel that was in the Yukon. And we went through the video over Half-Ass Customs. He does this exact same setup. And we're in process now of utilizing this fuse block to run this motor, which we've come to find out doesn't take a whole lot to make this LS run. It's only a couple wires. As you can see, these are the two harnesses. This gray one in particular is the harness that ran into the cab of the truck of the Yukon, and it was full of wires we were trying to save to make like cruise control work and all sorts of stuff. And we really dove into that pretty hard, and it was too much. So after watching the Half-Ass Custom video, we were able to really hack out down to this to 3 wires. And this block has literally like 2 wires coming out of it. And this is obviously all the body pieces to run the coils, the injectors is this plug here. And so now we're able to give this power, plug in our PCM, which is down here. There's the PCM plugs, which we haven't messed with yet, and make this thing fire up. And then the painless, we can completely keep in the truck, all the fuses for that, and then run out a couple wires that we need, which literally is like the start wire, 12-volt hot switched, and that will make this whole thing fire up. So we have done a lot of work on that. We did pull a bunch of pins out. Like, here's a bunch of stuff for the trailer harness that we are going to wire in somehow, so we can hook a trailer up to the truck if we wanted to. We got a bunch of stuff down in here that we're working on as well. This is mainly more of the four-wheel drive module that we're trying to save and where all that goes. So we are working on that. That's kind of a pin right now, because the main goal of this is to get the truck running by Sunday. Like I said, the goal of this is to try and have this truck running in a couple days. Right now it's currently April 11th, April 10th, and June 11th, 12th is not far away, and that's when Power Tour starts. So this truck has to be running by then. So a little bit of a time crunch, but I think we're gonna be okay. But yeah, the wiring system was definitely a tricky one, but I definitely feel like now that we have a good direction of where we're going, which thanks to the videos that we watched with Half-Ass Customs and LS1 Expert, those guys are a wealth of information. If you're doing this, this is definitely something you should check out. I'll even link some of that stuff in the descriptions here below. Super, 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 very informative very informative videos on how this system works, how this pinout works, how all these plugs work, what you really need to make one of these run, which was super helpful to us. But yeah, so I think tomorrow the goal will be to finish up some of this wiring, get the battery hooked up, the painless harness, actually it's a Brothers harness. The Brothers harness will be here in a day or two. We'll be able to get the cab wired in. I'm gonna get the Dakota dash wired in. I'm gonna try and get the vintage air plumbed in. So there's plenty of work we can do while I'm here for the next week or so. It's gonna go by quick, it always does. But I wanna try and get as much work done with that as we can. I'm gonna call it a night for tonight, but you'll probably click right into tomorrow when we're putting a lot of these parts in and keep the build going. I do appreciate everybody watching everything so far. I know the videos have been a little sporadic and a little random. It's tough when living in Atlanta and the truck and the projects here in Oklahoma with my dad. It's tough to get over here and help him with stuff. He's been doing a lot of work on stuff by himself, which I've been shooting video on it, which has been super fun. Definitely a learning curve for him too. So, but I appreciate everybody riding along and also helping us out with all the questions and comments and ideas, which have been great. We do look at every one of them and take ideas to heart. So, but yeah, let's get into the next part of the video, jumping into the cab, getting all those parts in here, probably doing some 12-volt work, and keep the ball rolling because Power Tour is coming. All right, guys, today is the day. We're gonna get this thing running today. We've gone over a lot of the wiring systems. I'm gonna show you in here and exactly what we've done, and I'll link a couple of videos on exactly what we've done and go into more detail. I'll give you the quick and dirty what we did, but I think we finally got this thing close so we can actually make it run. We're excited. It's gonna happen. It's gonna fire up today. Let me show you really quickly what we did with the wiring harness for the truck, and then we're gonna start clicking away and see if we can get this thing going. Okay, so after many tutorials and looking online, I think we got this figured out. We're still using the stock harness up here, all through the motor, all through the transmission, all comes down into this. A lot of this stuff I have zip tied up. A lot of this is for the four-wheel drive modules. This is all the rear tail lights and stuff. But what we did is we went through the pinouts on these guys back here. So there's 4 plugs that go into here. There's a red plug, black plug, white plug, and a green one, which is no longer here. The green one really quick goes up here and runs all your headlights, etc., etc., etc. That's gone because now we're going to put a Brothers wiring harness inside the truck here. It'll run all this, so that'll all get rewired. All the headlights and everything will get rewired at a certain time. The black plug runs everything for the motor. This has all your injectors in it, your coils, everything the motor needs and wants to run is run through this black plug here. The white plug here was the one that originally went through the firewall and into the Tahoe, and that plugged into the body control module to run all the inside of the car and make the key and everything inside the car run. So we have give this thing a massive haircut, and you will see that there's only a couple wires you really need to make this thing run, and we'll go over those. So this one here is 12 volt for the system. This in here is actually the key on, and this is your starter wire for the key. So that's really all you need from that plug to come over. We did have to move a jumper over here for one of these. We pulled out our AC wire because we're going to redo all the AC. This wire runs, I believe, something for the transmission. I'll double check exactly what that does. And then we have this gray wire here, which is the fuel pump sending unit, and that just 12 volt to that will send the fuel pump power and turn it on. So we got to do a little bit of wiring here in order to get the 12 volt hooked up to this. We're going to make a hot wire key, and then we have our brake pedal up here, which we might leave it here. Who knows? That could be fun. And that goes into the brake pedal module here. So a little more wiring we have to do, and then this thing should take off. All right, check it out. This is Frankenstein's wiring job, but it's running. Look at that. We got some stuff hooked up, kind of watching what's happening with it. And we're finding a couple leaks down in here that we're gonna work with. Look at that! It's running. This is our key, like our key setup. All right, we're gonna play around a little bit and we'll come back to it. Check it out. It's all in here. We ended up using the stock fuse panel. Got that to work. We still got a little bit of wiring to do here. That's all headlights and taillights. We're kind of picking apart a couple leaks here that we have. We're gonna take it for its first little test drive.
Is that the door clunking?
It's actually the vent, the vent cover for the kick panel.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Only one bolt, so it's slapping around in there.
So I was gonna say, what the hell's all that knocking?
Yeah, it's just doing that.
Okay.
Just like that. That's all you have to do. Put a 57 on a Tahoe. Only 900 more steps to go. Pretty cool. All right, you gotta drive this sucker.
Go back on me.
Oh yeah. I guess I could have drove back to this. I don't know the last time this truck was running, probably 1989, 1990 maybe, somewhere in there. Obviously it didn't run with this powertrain on it, but check that out.
Even got all the cool old truck sounds.
Yeah, clunkety clunkety clunk.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Fenders are rattling. Oh, we did good.
You want to leave it out here so the girls can see when they come home?
Well, we can prove that it's moved.
Prove that it moved? Nice, there it is. It runs and drives. It's still a little held together with duct tape and bubble gum, but it is, and lots of zip ties. It is getting closer though. Getting closer. All right, update time on the 57. We have been slamming hard on this thing for like a week now. So let me show you kind of what we got done here. We'll start up front. We have headlight buckets in. We got turn signals in. We still have to wire them up, but they're there. The wiring is pretty much tucked in up here. So this is all the wiring harness coming out for the Brothers unit, which is inside the cab. All comes out, wires into this guy, which is very, very simple. There's only a couple wires that go into here. Rest of these are, there's a couple headlight signal wires that come out, come across here, go into the headlight harness and break out into those guys. And then we got a horn from the Tahoe that we've got to finish wiring up. These are brake lights for the rears, which I got to loom and send back. But this is pretty well tucked in here. Dad did a lot of work on the air intake the other day. We were going to originally use the original overflow tank and the original windshield wiper tank for the windshield wiper squirters. But after putting them in here, he didn't really like how they looked. I didn't really like how they looked. So we did go ahead and ordered an aftermarket overflow tank and an aftermarket windshield wiper washer tank. Which I have the wires right here for that motor already ready to go. So once those come in, Dad's going to slap those in. We got the battery mounted up here. I told them with a ratchet strap right now because the connectors that we had to tie down go to a different battery, so they weren't long enough, so we got to extend them, shorten them. So we just threw a ratchet strap on it for a meantime. We got power cables run across down into the air, and they all latch onto the original battery harnesses where the battery, because the battery used to be right here on the Tahoe. So that's back in here, tucked in all nice and neat now. Dad made some cool little brackets here to hold the original fuse block for the LS motor. And kind of after doing this setup, this is actually, once you break in to figure out what wires you really need out of this thing to make this thing run, there's like one harness you use the whole thing out of, and then like literally 5 or 6 wires of the other 2 plugs on the back side of it. We were both talking if we were going to do this over again, maybe on the next one, we probably would just build the fuse and relay block system. You only need like 3 or 4 relays to make this thing run, and it just goes on the back wall up here, and you're done, and you can lose this entire thing. We'll see. Right now, that's in here right now. That's the way it went. But going forward, I don't know if we would do that just because it takes up a lot of room in here. It kind of looks not so great. But it's going to run for a power tour this way, probably. I got a couple wires tucked up in here. These are a one harness. We're not sure if we need just yet or we don't need it, so it's just coiled up in here now. I don't think we need that harness in here. I got a bunch of stuff tagged in here and flagged for trailer lights for the real trailer harness, and we might use them, we might not. They might get taken away. I don't think we're going to use them. This little orange guy is just an extra wire running through the firewall right now in case we need it for something. But yeah, let's move around here. So this is inside the cab. I have the Dakota dash all installed. We have the steering column all installed and tightened up. We just have the steering wheel off right now because we're doing some more work. We have headlights put in. We have, the key is over here right now. This is windshield wiper motor. The key is right here right now, and this kit that came with Brothers does not fit this hole very well. It's actually too small for this hole, so it's sloppy in here, and we didn't like it at all. So we ordered the original key for the 57, and we're gonna swap that key out when that key comes in, but we just temporarily mounted it up here, and that way we could start the truck and drive it around. Okay, from this side of the truck here too, we just have the ashtray out right now because we were seeing it here. These 2 switches here are going to be pull wires for the vents down here. We're going to try and put those back in and put the 2 holes right here. This guy is out because the vintage air is going to go in here. This guy is obviously out because the vintage air is going to be all behind here. We haven't done anything with the vintage air stuff yet. But we got the wiring pretty well buttoned up inside here. There's that Brothers harness up in there. And I got a little more tidying up to do in here. These coming down here, those are brake wires I still got to hook up. We got power and stuff coming back here for the power seats, which plug in right here. The power seat Dad built. And then that wire comes up here and runs up to the dome light, which does work now. So that's mainly what I've been working on, is just wiring, and getting the Dakota dash all wired up, which worked out great, actually. Let me show you how that works. Forgive my sniffling and coughing, it's allergy season. But yeah, I got this all wired in. Now this connector here, this is connected through the OBD2 port of the Tahoe. And when we did this, we weren't sure if we were gonna have to wire a bunch of stuff in here or make it work, but it's actually, that OBD2 module is very, very smart once you get it configured. It picked up everything. It picked up water temperature, it picked up voltage, tachometer, picked up oil pressure, it picked up the fuel gauge for the truck. This is about the only thing we haven't really tested yet, but I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. But yeah, let me show you this. We can click the key on. Boom, look at that. And it has 0 miles on it. I do have the check engine light wired into here. We do have a couple codes in this for evap stuff that we haven't hooked up yet. But yeah, it picked up all that stuff from the OBD2, and it's pretty rad. This thing's pretty cool. It's got a switch over here that you can go through, and you can change some of the windows here. You can look at some different gauges. You can do 0 to 60 quarter-mile stuff, which this truck will probably never do. And back to the original one. And it does actually work with a shifter. If you pull the shifter, it does change the gear shifter, which is pretty rad actually. So that has been my biggest thing. Cool thing is too, you can hook this up to Bluetooth in setup mode, and you can configure all the parameters of this dash through Bluetooth, which is really, really simple and very easy. Well worth it. Very cool. So I have one more day here. I've extended my stay actually by probably about a week. I've been here like a week and a half, just thrashing on this thing with Dad. So what we still have left to do on this is I still have to figure out the brake switch in here. We need to get brake for brake lights and also for the torque converter disconnect and cruise control disconnect. I haven't really messed with cruise control much. I have the wires all pulled for it and for the little module that we have to wire into it. Not sure if it's going to work, but we're gonna test it when we get to it. But it's not super high on the priority list right now. I was just trying to get this thing driving. So today I'm going to work on getting the brake switch done. I got to run the wires for the brake lights, the turn signals, and the backup lights all down underneath the cab, underneath here, all the way to the back here. So I'm going to work on doing that today. We'll probably throw it up on the lift. Dad's got a couple things he's working on today. He really wants to work on this light bucket here. This bucket is actually missing a stub up here for these guys down here to fit in, to lock in. So what he wants to do is he wants to pull that bucket out and rebuild that piece so we can put those pieces in there. And the other thing I gotta do today is I'm gonna wire up the horn today. I'm gonna wire up the turn signals today. We might try and put this headlight in because this one's pretty happy. I just need to put the plugs on. This one, like I said, Dad's working on the bucket of this today to get that working. So we can put the headlight in here. So hopefully this thing will have headlights by the end of today and a working horn and working brake lights. I think that's the big deal today. Wiring takes so much time. I really underestimated how much time it was going to take to wire this thing. I was really figuring like 2-3 days, and I've been almost a week on this thing now, and it's still not done. And I'm like 80% done maybe. A lot of that too was rerouting wires and figuring out where stuff went. I spent probably half a day to a day just underneath the engine compartment, just trying to hunt down the wires that we needed, make sure they're the right ones, cleaning up stuff, make sure it looked like it looked somewhat presentable, and like a rat's nest up in there, which was quite a bit of work. But yeah, so we're gonna get the day started here and get going. Like I said, today's my last day. I gotta pack up tomorrow and get ready to head back to Atlanta. We got a ton of stuff to clean up. I got to clean my dad's shop up. It's a disaster. We've just been slaying on this thing. Let me show you some of the carnage. Yeah, carnage of zip ties, random wires. All our benches are destroyed. Parts and pieces, work lights. I got carnage over here of parts we've taken out, parts we saved. Here's my box of stuff that I'm taking home to Atlanta to sell. So I got a bunch of Yukon parts. I've got an airbag in here. This is a Bose amplifier. I've got the stock radio with the harness. I've got HVAC controls. Here's the rear climate control and rear audio control for the Yukon. I've got the shifter stock. There's the headlight bezel. I've got a couple connectors in here. I also have the door trim, the door connectors off the Yukon as well. I have both the passenger and the driver's side, and a bunch of other parts. This here is dome light control, fog light control. So if anybody needs some parts for Yukon, hit me up. I'm gonna try listing these probably in a week or so, unless somebody really wants one from YouTube. Just email me, we can work out a deal. Oh, I also have a passenger airbag, and I have the factory Bose subwoofer that went underneath the center console. So here we go. But yeah, let's get cranking on this thing today and make some headway. All right, check it out. We got it outside and we got it fired up and running. We are bringing it up to temperature to see how all our systems are doing, how our radiator works. So far, we've had it running probably 15 minutes or so. No leaks or anything yet. We're running showing 188 on the temperature gauge, 190 there. So we're gonna see what it does. You can kind of see we got it pretty well cleaned up in here. Still got some cruise control to put in. Got some wires here run over for some switches we have in here for our power seat, which actually works extremely well. I'll show you a little bit of that in a minute. But yeah, we're just getting it up to temperature, monitoring it, like I said, looking for leaks and all that stuff. That's our puke tank right now. But yeah, she's running pretty good. We're knocking some stuff out. We got headlights in, we got turn signals working. We got backup lights working. A lot of lights have been wired in this thing this week. So, show you back here. Here's all that going. So, lots and lots of progress. Canceling turn signals, so you gotta turn them off, like on the motorcycle. It's driving pretty good though. All right, so here it is. I want to give a little recap at the end of the video here to kind of show you where we're at. We did get it running and driving. We took it for its first ride down the road the other day, and it drove pretty good. We did kind of run into some problems though. Upon further driving the truck around, we kind of noticed that the transmission was not shifting. It was kind of stuck in third gear. You could shift it manually down into second, but you couldn't get into first, you couldn't get into overdrive. And we have been hunting and hunting and hunting, trying to figure out this problem. We were trying to figure out if it was power to the transmission, which the transmission does have power. There's the TCC wire, which we did hook up. It is hooked up and it shows voltage down at the transmission. So we really can't figure out really what's going on with it. Like I said, we've literally been hunting on this thing for like a day and a half, trying to figure out what's going on. And oh boy. So I don't know exactly what we're gonna do right now. Like I said, it does run and drive, but the transmission, the 4L60E that's in this, for some reason is not talking to the PCM, or there's some kind of communication breakdown somewhere in that, so that the transmission just says, nope, I don't see anybody. I'm just gonna stay in third gear until we go somewhere else. So with that being said, like I said, we've been hunting for this thing for a good day or so. All day we spent trying to figure out troubleshooting the best we could. We're still learning this stuff as well, so probably, you know, a little bit of that as well. I'm sure someone out there will be like, oh yeah, you just need to hook this up, you're good to go. But for right now, that's not us. So I think what we're gonna do right now, unfortunately, is I think we're actually going to bite the bullet and buy a pre-rigged harness for a 5.3 liter and a 4L60E. And our thought is that it'll plug into our PCM and the wires will be what we want to be, and it should make the transmission work. And unfortunately, this experiment of trying to use all the wiring from the Tahoe is so far been not great, which I'm sure a lot of people online are gonna be like, yep, could have told you that. So, but we kind of wanted to go down the road for ourselves and try and save a couple bucks, and we spent a lot of time doing it. I know I did personally learn quite a bit about wiring in an LS and wiring in a 5.3, one of these trucks. There's tons of videos of making these things run. Like I said, if we had a manual transmission, I think we would be done. You know, it runs and drives and all our instruments work, everything works in it. We just cannot get the 4L60E to want to talk. So if it had been a 5-speed or a 6-speed truck, we probably wouldn't even have known and would have been going down the road and making it work. But yeah, we literally, this was not running when I got here at all. So I really feel very, very happy with all the thrashing we did on this to make this run, getting all the dash installed, which I'll show you that in just a second. Radiator all plumbed, all this stuff all worked out great. No leaks in it. We fixed all the leaks and everything in it. It still seemed to stay very cool with this radiator combo in here. I was running a rate at like 195, 197. We let it idle for a long time. Brakes worked, throttle worked, everything worked good on it. Let me show you really quick the inside of the truck too. Headlights are installed and worked. We got our cruise control module, not hooked up yet, but it is in here. Dakota digital dash is installed and running. Wipers has been installed and works. We actually have windshield wipers now. New key is going to come over here. Steering column is all finalized. Turn signals work. The tilt steer works. We got the shift linkage hooked up. We got all our brake pedals worked. Our brake pedal switches worked. All our wiring is all tucked up underneath here. I know it's pretty dark, but it's all up in there. The seat is installed, and if you notice, there is a switch down here, and we actually have power seats. So that power seat my dad spent 3 videos making, works great. You got cup holders installed. There's gonna be a cigarette lighter that goes in here for power. Steering wheel is kind of almost there. We got a little more work to do on that. These are seat belts. Just kidding, that's how we get the seat in here. Dome lights are working. One fell down already, which is great, but those actually dome light. Yeah, so still quite a bit of work to do, but we are trucking along here. So that's pretty much where we're at right now on the truck. Thank you guys so much for coming along the journey with Dad and I. We really appreciate everybody watching and helping out and asking questions and trying to figure us out with us too. You know, you guys have been great. We're looking forward to really meeting everybody on Power Tour, and also, you know, if we're at a car show in Oklahoma or in Atlanta, you know, hopefully we'll be there and we can say hi. So if you guys have any more questions about the truck, please ask. We'll try and answer as many as we can with what we know. And like I said, we really appreciate everybody following along and enjoying the process with it, and we'll see you on the next one.